What's on YouTube? It's Pete TT coming at you with another Division video, and today we're covering a pretty important topic. We're going to be talking about end game characters. Now guys, I'm not going to just be jumping in and showing you my character and kind of showing off, look at this piece of kit, look at that piece of kit. I'm actually going to be talking to you on how to get the perfect end game character. Now let's point out a few things before we start. When I talk end game character, I am making the assumption that you are looking at end game activities like challenge mode, high end dark zone, and obviously with the update coming soon, incursions. Now I have a list of all the attributes that I think you should be rolling, and I'm going to talk through each one of them, tell you what they are, why I think you should have them, and when we've gone through the whole list, then we're going to jump onto my character and I'm going to kind of show you some numbers to make it a little bit more poignant. I think it's the right word to choose. Might be the wrong one. If it is, tell me in the comment section down below. But yeah, let's jump into it, guys. So the first thing you want to be looking for on your end game character for an armor roll on one of the attributes is damage to elite. Now this increases damage done to elites and named enemies. Currently mine sits at like 31%. Teamed up with my Vector and the talents on it, it really does wreck them. Now the reason I think you want this, guys, is if you've done challenge mode or you haven't done challenge mode yet, it is full of elite and obviously at the end named bosses, and not only do they have stupidly high health, but they also have stupidly high armor. They will drop you very quickly if you go in unprepared. So the fact that you can do more damage to them, and if you get this on several pieces of armor like I have and get that percentage quite high, then you really do start to pack a bit more of a punch. And you will notice it, guys, like if you do a challenge mode without this perk or this attribute on your armor, then you put it on a couple of pieces, you will definitely notice how much quicker you can drop the elites. So that's damage to elites. Let's talk then protection from elites. This is another major attribute you can roll on your armor. Additional mitigation versus damage from elite and named enemies. Basically, guys, you take less damage from the elites or named bosses. Again, very good for things like challenge mode and high level dark zone areas. Now I'm going to make an assumption, guys, that incursions is going to have a lot of elite and named bosses as well, like challenge mode. I can't see the incursions being any lower in difficulty or kind of challenge grade than the challenge mode itself. So obviously everything is going to be an elite and going to try and kick your ass. So a very good combination with damage to elites and protection from elites on your armor. Let's move on then to the next thing I think is absolutely crucial for every player to have, and that's kind of the thing with this video, guys. All of these things I'm going to be telling you are, in my opinion, crucial, and it's something that you should all try and roll. Obviously it might change up depending on how you play. You might not like a certain something, and you know, I personally go for firearms. If you're going for health, then you might opt less on the damage and more the protection side of some of these perks. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, let's move on, guys. I'm thinking the next big thing that you should have on your pieces of armor as much as you can is weapon damage. Now this gives you bonus damage with said weapon. For example, SMGs, LMGs, marksman rifles, shotguns, things like that. I personally run a Vector and a high-end LSW, and I think it's my gloves that have both SMG damage and LMG damage at a really high plus. And you do, again, you notice a difference, a bit like the protection and damage from elites. You will notice a difference if you run, say, a challenge mode or a hard mission without, you know, if you've got a different set of gloves that don't have any weapon damage on them, and then you equip a set that does have it, you'll notice just how much more kind of damage you do to enemies and how much quicker you can kill them. Moving on then, the next very important thing, and this is kind of a non-negotiable one in my opinion. I think it doesn't matter whether you're doing endgame activity, whether you're a massive dark zone player, ammo capacity. Now I have this on so many pieces of kit. I actually run with about 1300 rounds in each weapon now, which is absolutely insane. But the ammo capacity attribute increases the amount of ammo your character can carry. We all know what a dark zone can be like, guys, if you're trying to, you know, do a bit of farming, especially if you go in rogue and things like that. Ammo can be a really big issue. Same with challenge modes. You know, these elite bosses take an awful lot of bullets to drop. constantly finding yourself and running out of ammunition, especially if you're not running something like support station in your team. This ammo capacity, you will notice. You'll notice you're not so often swapping weapons out, like your SMG to an assault rifle, because you run out of the ammo in that said weapon class. Very, very good attribute to have. Moving on then, these next ones are kind of like, they're not must-haves in my opinion, but it's what I like to roll, and again, they're perks that make you notice the difference in your character build depending on what you're playing. Mod slots. Now mod slots are really good things to have on every single piece of armour, because these let you attach firearms, stamina, electronics or performance mods to your gear. Now if, like myself, you've already hit that level 50 in the Dark Zone and you've had a stupid amount of Phoenix credits, and you're going to have so many blueprints to craft so many different things that your kind of tree opens up. You know, rather than just being one firearm, stamina or electronics, you can kind of branch off into two, maybe even all three. Like currently my DPS sits at about 150,000, my health sits around the 60k mark, and my skill power around the 20k mark. This is because I'm missing a few mod slots on a few pieces of kit, and I am in the process of trying to craft new kit to have a mod slot on everything, because basically the base damage on all of my armour is firearms. And then I split the mod slots between stamina and electronics so that I've got all the talents on my weapons, and you know, I have a good chunk of health and being able to use my skills quite regularly. That really does come down to having mod slots, because it means you don't have to have, you know, 2 pieces of firearms kit, 2 pieces of electronics kit, 2 pieces of health kit. You can just have one kind of base layer on whatever your main thing's going to be it firearms, stamina or electronics, and then you use the mod slots to add the extras in. Right, let's move on from that then. Health is the next thing. So if you roll health on your armour, it will give you an increase to your overall health. And again, this is something I use because I have gone more down the firearms route. I found my health was very low. Getting that roll of health on a few pieces of armour is very good. I think I've upped it by about 10k overall by how many pieces of armour have the health roll on them. So it is a really, really good attribute to get if you're branched off into the firearms or electronics kind of route on your player. If we move then, obviously looking at health, but we go and look at armour. Armour is another really good roll that you can get on your armour. It mitigates a certain percentage of weapon damage, and again, if you can get this high enough and you team it up with your protection to elites, damage from elites and things like that, you really will start to notice that you can actually take a bit of a pummel from bullets. It doesn't give you any kind of mitigation against incendiary grenades, flashes, things like that. That's where your resistance abilities come into it, but that again comes down to personal preference and what you're doing. Moving on to the next thing, I think is really, really important. It's not like a must, but if you do get it on your armour, I would definitely leave it, and that is Scavenging. Increases the chance of finding more and better items. Now, teams up nicely with the fact that Massive have just brought us a nice patch out, fixing the whole high-end drop rate, and the fact that Hamish Bode actually confirmed that your scavenging, and depending how high it is, does really help determine how often you will get these high-end drops, is very good. My scavenging actually sits quite high. I think it's about 150, maybe 200%, depending on what armour I'm running, and it's really good. The amount of high-end drops I get compared to when I wasn't running gear with scavenging on is a massive difference, guys. So if you're finding yourself a little bit short of the high-end drops and things like that, definitely look at trying to get your scavenging up. Moving on then, obviously we have our skill attributes, and these cover absolutely everything. I'm not going to go through and name them all, but you have things like pulse duration, ballistic shield health, pulse critical hit damage bonus. Now personally for me, in my team, I'm the one that runs like the self revive and the pulse. So having the pulse duration and critical hit damage bonus and things like that on my armour is kind of a personal thing, because that is what I run. If you run, say, ballistic shield, or on your team you're the guy that runs the turret, then you kind of want to be looking for those specific skill things in your skill attribute. So yeah, that is a very, very personal section on your armour. And moving on to kind of the last thing that I would say is a very important thing, especially this is more so if you're running challenge mode and then incursions when the update comes out, but enemy armor damage increases damage done to enemy armor. Now, as I said earlier on, challenge modes, all the bosses are elites or named. They have a massive amount of health, but they also have a massive amount of armour. Now, your damage to elites will actually help with their health and drop them very quickly, but they're still a bit of a bullet sponge when it comes to taking their armour down. So this enemy armour damage will actually help with that. So they work quite nicely together because you're doing extra damage to their armour and extra damage to their health. Personally, as I said before, I team this up with my Vector that does X amount of percentage to named and elite bosses increased damage. Then I can really start to melt an entire elite with one clip on my Vector. I can take their armour down and their full health bar. So it's absolutely insane setup I've got. Well, there you have it, guys. A pretty long kind of chat about attributes and things you can get on our armour. But what does it all mean? I've kind of told you what they are. What does it mean? Well, let's jump into my character and take a look. Okay guys, here we are on my character screen. So as you can see, like I said, my primary DPS is sat at like 153k. My health is actually 61k and my skill power is almost 22k. Now we come down and we're looking at weapon damage. So that's one of the perks that I talked to you about. Damage at optimal range with the current weapon and all bonuses included. Mine's at like 10,798. My crit hit chance and crit hit damage is quite high because of the perks I have with my pulse. That comes into the skill attributes I was telling you about. Moving down, we don't really need to worry about the whole reload thing. I actually have the wrong gear on. 2 seconds, guys. Let me swap out to... not those gloves, not those gloves, those gloves there, and go back into the character screen. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Okay, here we go. So I was telling you about gloves that have weapon damage on for certain types. You can see here my LMG damage bonus goes up to like 513. And if we go down too far, what's going on? My controller's killing me. Next category. SMG damage bonus is like 361. Now these, like I said, are personal depending on what you are running. You could choose to go for marksman and shotguns. You could choose to go for assault rifles. Like I say, it depends on what kind of weapons you want to run individually. If we move down and take a look at combat, here comes into the damage to elites, health on a kill, enemy armor damage and things like that. And these are kind of the big numbers to get up, in my opinion, for end game. Like I said, they're all elites, so the higher you can get this percentage, the more damage you are going to do. And if we move down to survivability, protection from elites, again, if you can get that higher, you will definitely take more from them before they down you, or you have to use your kind of med packs. And here's the whole armor thing that I was telling you about as well, mitigates weapon damage. Mine's currently sitting at 45.16%. That's nearly 50% of their damage is mitigated by my armor values. Very, very good, guys. There is an awful lot of things that we could carry on going through. You know, your damage resilience, your bleed resilience, burn resilience, disorientate resilience and things like that. But I think that all comes down to your personal preference, and you can kind of just mess around with the minor attributes as you see fit for your character. There we have it. I tried to put quite a bit of research into this, guys, and looking at all the possibilities. I've tried to use so many different pieces of armor. I have spent probably 1,000+ Phoenix credits rolling different armor to have different attributes on, so I can work out what is good and what is not, and bring you a video like this that really does let you know the best and the worst. If you like the video, please, I would much appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. Let me know any comments you've got in the section down below. Maybe there is something I've missed and I didn't really play with enough of to notice how good it was. If that's the case, let me know down below. I'll happily go and test it out and then come back to you guys with my opinion on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next episode, I'll catch you all soon.